All right, so I just watched the movie Sinners, and let me just say, it is a very fun movie to watch, dude. It's so there isn't a dull moment really in the film, which is really fun to say. I didn't know anything about the vampire. Okay, this is spoilers. Okay, I didn't know anything about the vampire subplot. I just kind of flipped it on. I've heard about the movie. I've heard about some of the crazier like moments, I guess, but like I didn't really know any of the context, I guess, so I just kind of came into it blind. And I really like a lot of the I guess I really just like the movie. Let's talk about the characters briefly. Um, we'll talk about Sammy first because Sammy's kind of, I think, the core of the story. Sammy's this person who's truly just a gifted soul. And, you know, he, despite his beginnings, it's not really like he doesn't have any musical influence in his family other than probably somebody plays the guitar at his church, and so the little exposure, but like to be a full on musician. And while it's fresh in my mind, I did think it was a little bit interesting that he named his band Perlines because they really only have they had just met. They were strangers. I think he like ate her out, and then you know, but I guess he was really fond of her, and I think it's a little weird because she was a married woman to name the band Perlines is a little weird. Like, what's her husband think about that? But the point is anyway. So Sammy's a very interesting character. He's just got this depth of soul. He's got this grasp of the guitar and the blues, and he's got a great singing voice. And he's a man who's meant to live a great life if he's able to just kind of fulfill his dream and use his talents to the fullest of their ability. And that's what he ends up doing, and it's really nice to see that. Um, and it's nice that they didn't kill him at the end of the film, presumably. I guess even vampires can stay true to their word. And it was interesting that to speak about the brothers now. I guess we'll leave Sammy as it is. He's really a joy to watch on the screen, and I'm glad that he chose to live his life and not I don't know, whatever his father wanted to do. Put the guitar down, give up that life of sin. Because it's not sin. He's just making beautiful music and horrible things happened. There's no reason why those things should have happened. They should have just had a good night. But the unfortunate reality of that little um, scenario is actually that they were going to have a really bad fucking time anyway because the world is really cruel. And even though vampires don't really exist, the Ku Klux Klan in that time definitely did. And the truth is that they were going to show up to basically take back the property, kill anybody on, maybe kill anybody. I don't know if they had arms. Obviously. Yeah, apparently, I don't. Oh fuck, I'm a little embarrassed to know that I don't know if it was Smoke or Stack. I kind of like don't really know which one's which because they're just fucking identical twins. It's a little hard, blue hat, red hat. I wish I would have been called red and blue. Would have been a little easier. But anyway, the point is, those brothers are a very interesting duo. Well, let's just finish speaking on. They were going to have a bad time anyway. Like this dream that they had of this community, this juke joint, it was not going to be permitted at this time. And that is a reality that we still live with today. I think much less so. But there are certain people that want to get in the way of your plans, or entities, corporations, whatever you name it. You know, there are a lot of ways that people can shut down a dream. And it's a shame to see because all what they experienced on this night, and they kind of reflect on that in the movie, despite the horror of it all, they still both, Stack and probably Haley Steinfeld's character, Mary, I think. Everybody in that room, despite where they're standing, some of them are undead, one of them's almost dead. They all look back as the best night of their life before you know the vampire showed up. So it's just interesting. But anyway, hopefully you can pursue your dream without these kind of inhibitions, or at least much more minimal than something as crazy as the Ku Klux Klan and vampires getting in the way of your plans. But when they were having that time, and I really really enjoyed when they started playing the music in all of the different cultures, not even just like black culture, because I think that was the focus piece of the film, obviously. But you saw a lot of different cultures as kind of like there was like a little narrator cue that said like, oh yeah, some people have music so true and so pure that it conjures the spirits of the ancestors, and you just seen all kinds of I couldn't even begin to speak on every single little instrument that was played, or every single dance that was done, and every costume that was worn. There's so many across so many cultures, not just black. I really think they extended it to just kind of include humanity, because we are all one people, really. And I think that we're seeing that more and more these days. But back in this time, that just wasn't how they viewed, the average person viewed the world. I'm sure that, there's a reason why they didn't let the white folk in, right? Because just these views were so, other than the fact that they were kind of creepy. But I mean, generally, there's the segregation back then was so strong. It was very, and still today, it's not like uncommon to see people kind of congregate together and just kind of form cliques that are, where a lot of the underlying connection will be, your cultural background, your ethnical background. I don't think it's necessary. As a guy who lived in the military for a long time, I think there's a lot of strength in our diversity in the United States, and the fact that you can be friends with everybody, and you can learn from everybody. You might not always have the same views, because culture is different, but you can appreciate everybody, and you can love. It's all love, I think, is where I'm at currently, and I wish everybody could get to. Anyway, so they have a fucking fantastic night. That scene and all the scenes that kind of leading up to it are really fun. Let's talk about Smoke and Stack. These are some bad people, generally. Let's be realistic. There's some thugs, right? And they had a bad upbringing, and a lot of it is nature, and well, not nature, but nurture. Sorry, their father's beating on them, and I'm sure their childhood was really terrible, and ends up, one of the brothers gets beat unconscious, and the other brother kills their father. That's intense, right? That's intense. Waking up from that, seeing that would be intense. That would be very traumatic. And these guys have a hard life, and they generally live it as a crime life, because that is just how that's just the path that they ended up kind of taking. They also served, and you see that kind of influence in them very strongly. I don't know when this film is set. I'm going to guess sometime in the 20s, and so they were participants in World War I, and because he mentioned it briefly, something about German trenches. But the point is these guys are soldiers. They're well trained. They're strong. They know how to fight for themselves, and they're all about their business, basically. And they don't take no shit. Even the guys robbing the truck, you can see it very early. They parked that truck for about 2.5 minutes before they're getting robbed. And, he shoots the guy without seeing him. He knows who the guy is. I don't think he knows who the second gentleman is. But he ends up shooting that guy anyway because of just the message it will send. Because he cannot be a guy with anything other than an impeccable reputation of, that you don't fucking cross him. And that's what these guys are. These are some gangsters, right? These are just what they are. And I won't really speak about the time in Chicago, the banks they robbed, whatever they all got up to create the situation where they can now come back to Mississippi, and just they want to just realize this dream. Now they got money, they got alcohol, they got guns. They got what they think they need, tool wise, to set this all up. But eventually, I think if you live that lifestyle, it will come crashing down, and it crashed down pretty hard on these guys. Again, a lot of it would have happened kind of regardless if they were clean or not. I think if they had clean money, I think this still would have happened, and that's the unfortunate part of it. But anyway, these guys have a really close relationship. They both have had their struggles. One has the struggle of loving a mostly white woman, and so there's in this time, the optics of that they aren't good. He wants her to have a good, fulfilling life, and he knows that he can't have it with her, really, because there's just so much negativity that would be cast upon her. I think she's basically white passing. She does mention that she has a quarter, or a half black mother or father, and but generally she's white passing. She has a white husband, but she has so much love for Stack because I think that people just bond. I think it's Stack anyway. But the point is that these people are bonded for life, and when he returns, and she just happens to be in town by happenstance, but she can't resist trying to basically see what's there, And, they have some very interesting dialogue. I'll let you kind of enjoy it. But, it's just a love that cannot be in the world that they live in. The other, Smoke, or the other, whatever it is, he's also left I don't know if it's his wife, or I presume it is his wife. They had a child together. The child died young, and that's just, particularly back in this day and age, I think it would have been more common than it is now. It still happens, like sudden infant death syndrome. There's nothing you can really do about it. It's not really understood, um, and it's hard, I think. And so, and I think it's also hard on the relationship itself. You can definitely see it a lot. Is whenever somebody loses a child, a lot of times the actual relationship can fall apart, and those people can find it so dramatic to just be reminded of it by seeing their partner every day that they'll end up kind of withdrawing from the relationship and eventually separating. And that's sad to see, but because I think that your partner. Anyway, we're not going to talk too much about that more. This message is getting a little long. To kind of, I don't know, I could talk about all these other characters so much. To talk briefly about the vampire subplot, when you first see the guy, he's smoking. And I guess if you knew that this was a horror film, you probably know, oh, this is the vampire. But he's smoking. I'm like, what the fuck happened to this guy? It just doesn't, it didn't make any sense until I kind of started picking up the context clues. But I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, obviously, once he gets invited in, he kills that whole family, and chaos starts to ensue. I will kind of criticize, I think, the fight when they finally get let in, because the Chinese lady is so distraught about the idea that they're going to go kill her daughter and convert her daughter, and all the horrible they proved that the vampires have like shared mind. All the memories are shared with everybody. So if there's anybody that you find precious in your life, these guys can exploit that. And the fear, the overwhelming fear that they must feel, I kind of can't blame her for what she did, inviting them in, and then they just have to fight. I will say the fight should have gone to the vampires like immediately. Like there's almost no chance they should have fucking like even lost more than maybe 3 people. But I don't know how many. Obviously everybody died. Well, okay, spoilers again. Everybody dies on the vampire side, minus some exceptions. But they could have overwhelmed them pretty easily. I think the odds were probably like 4-1, or maybe even 5-1 in terms of if they just really came in with a shared mind and kind of attacked everybody. Well, I don't know how shared it is, but anyway, I think the humans kind of got they had too easy of a time, kind of as opposed to defeating the vampires. Like there's only like 5 people left, and anyway. But I do think that the most interesting conflict of that was the smoke and stack conflict. Is that the brother couldn't turn the other brother, and the other guy couldn't kill his vampire brother. They just couldn't do it. Their bond was so strong that it kind of transcends this supernatural effect of him being a vampire. He can't, and he shouldn't be able to resist the urge to kill him, and the brother logically shouldn't be able to resist the idea that this guy can't be allowed to live. He's basically an evil demon. But anyway, I guess he was able to overlook it because he knows that some of him is still in there. As long as he could make this pact to let Sammy live. And I don't know. The whole film is very interesting. It's just fun to watch. I don't know. I just think that if you watch it, you'll have a great time. You'll learn something about these cultures and this time period, and you'll walk away with an appreciation for how much better it all is now, I think.